David here with us. We're going to be discussing tonight a little bit about the who we think the number one enemy of the American people are, and we'll get into it in just a minute. Hang tight. All right, so we're back. Tonight we're going to be discussing a little bit about what we both think and we believe is the number one cause of the division in the country, and the number one reason that we are at each other's throats around this wonderful country we call America. So how you doing, David?
I'm doing awesome. Yeah, what you've been saying has been weighing heavily on my heart, and what I've been seeing out there personally. What we saw recently at the protests that have been taking place in Redding, California, which I'm so proud of my city. They remain peaceful. We've got a lot of good people out there on both sides, and we actually had moments of unity that were deeply cherished in my heart. And what we're seeing from the media, and one of the things that I made on one of my recent posts, is that they're out to get us. They're out to get us all, each and every single one of us. And what I mean by that is that during this time, we had a lot of people. We had almost as many protesters that were there as people who showed up to protect our city from outside influences, because everybody has a right to be heard on both sides of the aisle.
Amen to that.
That is 100% correct. You have your First Amendment right, and we are not going to stop you from that. But what we saw is we saw division in the media, and I had an instance to where I was driving truck because of all this corona shit. I ended up having to take a different job. And I ended up listening to NPR, and I ended up listening to Fox News at different times where I was going through and seeing it. And the problem that I saw, the biggest thing that I saw, is how twisted and distorted the media is. And people of both sides, this is what we're constantly hearing, is that the media is twisting our story, and it's true. It's true on both sides. Not everybody who went out there to protest is rioters and looters. And the message is being lost in that.
Right.
And you have a lot of people who are going out there peacefully protesting, and the patriots on one side, we're sick and tired of seeing the cops that are taking away our constitutional rights, or trying to, because there are God-given rights. We're sick and tired of that. And you have the people who are going out there protesting right now, who are sick and tired of people being murdered in the streets for no reason. What that cop did was heinous. We both agree. Everybody in the country agrees. And everybody in the nation agrees. And what they've done, and what they've set up, and what they've been trying to do is divide us with every step of the way. And the media is controlled. 90% of the media is controlled by 6 companies and 6 corporations. 6 voices control everything you hear, see, or read. And social media is even worse. The top 3. Instagram got purchased by Facebook. So you've got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. They're all owned by 2 companies, 2 corporations that control everything you see, hear, and read on social media, everything you think. And it's not just the right that's being silenced, it's the left as well. So we are being silenced, and they're keeping us in division. And what we're calling for today, and what we're seeing today, is that the biggest, number one enemy in our nation is the media.
Absolutely. You know, that's the you touched on it earlier as far as the Minneapolis thing is when that happened and the video started going around, you had 99% of the public against those police officers in Minneapolis, and not just the one guy, but the 4. And you have the one guy that's actually doing the act, and the other 3 people standing around and watching. Minneapolis had the support of 90% of the country, and they had that up until the riots started. And we know that Black Lives Matter didn't start the riots. It ended up being outside actors like Antifa, and I'm sure that there's other groups involved in that too. But the fact is that the media jumped on that and followed these idiots around instead of stopping them or getting the attention of the police departments or anything like that to stop them from rioting. They just allowed keep filming. Now, here's my question on the media part of that. The media has all these videos. I'm sure they have many more that they didn't air. How many of those media companies are actually volunteering their videos over to the police departments to catch the people that were doing the riots and doing the hurtful acts and all that kind of stuff? We've seen it. The thing is that the media does is they jump on all this violence, and that's how they get their ratings. And we all know this. Instead of keeping the peace, they're literally willing to divide the country for ratings, and that's essentially what it is. They get paid to do this. So, and half the time we've seen it. How many different news companies have done retractions on stories that they put out there that they know were false to start with?
Well, and the problem is once they do a retraction, the damage has already been done.
Yep.
And the retraction is seconds, whereas the aired time that they spend on it is weeks.
Yep.
So there's a lot of rioters out there that are giving all of the people that are just looking for justice. And I personally feel that justice has been served, and I feel a lot of people that have been protesting feel that justice has been served, being is the fact that a lot of the protests are dying down because the cops were in the wrong. There was a lot wrong with that story. And what people are waking up to, one of the things that I saw is that in these cities, CNN got burnt down to the ground in a lot of these cities that they were rioting in. And even people of the other side were saying that it's fake news. And what we're seeing right here with the recent thing, we did not step in, not once, to turn around and stop people from having their First Amendment rights when we went up to Reading, when we were there.
Same
we
here.
were there only if there was bloodshed. We were there only if there was instances of our city burning to the ground. We've been through so much. We've been through the Carr fire. We've been through the Paradise fire. We've been through all of these fires and all of these problems these last time. We want to make sure our city is safe, and we want to make sure your voice is heard. And what the media is doing is they're trying to divide us. And what we're seeing time and time again is that they are trying to incite violence through things. The very first thing I read today was somebody who was taken out of context, who was saying no lives matter until Black Lives Matter.
Well, here's another thing. Here's something that happened up here, and the only reason I know is because I was kind of involved in it. So I have a friend up here, LD Howard, great guy, constitutionalist, loves to stand up for other people's rights, and he put out a video. He runs a group called 907 Freedom, and he put out a video basically offering services to Black Lives Matter, or the group that was running the rally, to make sure that he protects. He offered his services to keep an eye out for detractors and people that were willing to go out and do bad stuff. And it got turned around on him that he was bringing a militia there, and he was going to bring a bunch of armed weapons and armed thugs and everything else. And the media did that. They basically turned a good thing, someone standing up for someone's rights, into something nefarious, and it sickens me. And the reason that I'm even saying anything right now is because my name got brought into it, and I started getting messages because I run another pro-gun group here in the state, and we hadn't put anything out that we were going to go out and keep anyone from exercising their First Amendment rights. We believe in that. We want that to happen. But at the same time, we've seen across the state, or not across the state, but across the country, these rallies get hijacked by other groups that don't have the same political agenda that Black Lives Matter may, or any other groups for that matter. But there was 3 different news organizations up here that ran with that story, and none of it, I would say probably 80% of it, was false. And it was basically to divide the people up again and put right wing versus left wing against each other. And luckily, and I will say this, luckily, LD reached out to the organizers, Black Lives Matter or whoever it was, and they actually came together on Saturday out in Palmer, and they said a prayer together. They marched together. There was no issues. There was no riot or anything like that. Everything was nice and peaceful. Everything worked out very well. But if it didn't take him to reach out to the Black Lives Matter organizers, things could have been very different. So I applaud LD for doing that. That's how we need to do it. And we need to do that as far as citizens. We need to reach out instead of putting statements out saying, hey, we're going to go do this, going to do that, go do this. You know, I think we need to start reaching out to the other side and say, hey, do you mind if we do this? Or, you know, do you mind if we come and assist you? You know, you tell us what you would like to see. We'll be right there standing right beside you and helping you exercise your First Amendment. And that's, you know, that's how it needs to be. We got to keep the media out of this crap because anytime that they're involved, the bet's off as to how they're going to report it.
Well, and we need to take a stand against the media and this false reporting that they're doing because, like recently, one of the most heartfelt moments of my life was when we were there. We were all standing together. We had one of the people from Black Lives Matter that came over. We all prayed together, every single one of us. We all bowed our heads. I have the video on my page, and it was a cherished and beautiful moment within our city to where every single one of us were in unity for what we wanted. And this whole goal of this whole media of what we've been seeing is to separate us and divide us and keep these race wars going and keep all the rest of this going. Now, this is a problem that we have within our country, and we have to take a stand against these 8 people who are ruling our lives. There are 8 people who decide what stories you hear, even down to your local media. And you look it up, Business Insider has something on it. Look up the 6 corporations that own every media station within our nation.
Well, and here's the thing.
You will see.
Here's the thing. Okay, yeah, I seen the article that you had sent me on the 8 corporations. So now I think that there's going to be more than 8 people that are going to be dealing with that. But you know, each corporation that runs these things, they're going to have their board of directors and they're going to have, you know, they're going to have their other people. Here's what needs to happen. If we're ever going to have a non-biased media company, then what we're going to have is we're going to have people from both sides sitting in a room working together on it. And it's going to have to be an agreement type thing. But we don't have that. We have 90% of the media that's out there are biased to the left, and we know that.
Or biased to the right. Like I'm not on either side of it. And from what I've been seeing on the right and the left, they've both been pushing the same exact stories. And what we need to do is we need to segregate ourselves from the media that has been doing this to us. Because Fox is owned by another corporation that's owned the other big 3 corporations. Even liberal media is owned by Fox. And so when we go through and we look at all of these corporations, they are deciding the narrative, they're deciding what we see, and they are making it to where we are divided. Well, our nation was formed, and it said that at that time, united we stand. We are not united. We are a people completely divided by all of this bullshit. I don't think this was a race thing. I don't think it was at all. You had an Asian cop, a Mexican cop, a black cop, and a white cop. You can't get more diversified than that. You had a person who had their problems that got involved in the beginning of it. And what we see throughout all of this is that they are seeking to divide us through race wars, through bickering, through Democrat versus Republican, and all of them are the same. Everybody on the right, we all believe that there's a lot of snakes as far as the people who are quote-unquote conservative within our ranks of the people who are representing us. And on the Democratic side, there's a lot of people who are snakes who are quote-unquote liberal who are representing you. The media is a liar, one way or the other.
Well, here's the thing, and you know this as well as I do because we're both on the same side here. There's not a conservative out there that I know of, an actual conservative out there that doesn't want everybody in this country to have their rights. I'm going to state that right now. Everybody out there that's a conservative understands that we were born with inalienable rights, and those rights are not supposed to be trampled on. And it's not a right versus left thing. It's an American thing, right? So the problem that we're having is you got the media saying, well, this guy said this and this guy said this, and they're twisting and turning the words. I mean, they do it to the worst person that they do it to is obviously Donald Trump because he's like in their mouth every second of every day. Okay. Now, not all of us agree with a lot of the stuff that Trump says, even though the media turns around to say that all conservatives are this. The thing is the difference is conservatives think for themselves. Most conservatives think for themselves. Most of the Democrats, I hate to say this and hate to classify it that way, but they don't. They wait to find out what they're supposed to think. And we see it every day. And guess what? The news media is happy to sit there and spoon feed them the information that they want them to think about. And we have to find a way to get the people that are in that frame of mind to be able to understand that they got to start thinking for themselves, do their own research on certain things. Because if you look up, and here's a perfect example of how bad the media is. You can take 5 different media stations that are owned by the same corporation, and word for word across the country, the media story will be exactly the same. And I'm saying word for word. It's a script. Mm-hmm. And, basically the media that you're seeing on TV, they're actors. They're reading from a script. They're reading from teleprompters. They're not the ones reporting the news. They're the ones that are basically sitting there parroting whoever it is that types that crap into a teleprompter.
The teleprompter is the people's god. And that's what we're seeing over and over again. And what we're seeing is, like you were mentioning to me in a private chat, you're going to have to tell me the gentleman's name, but he is a Black Lives Matter activist who has recently come out and said, you don't get to tell us how to vote, because a lot of these cities, like Minneapolis, for instance, a lot of them are left-leaning Democrats who are all running the show, and yet this happened under their watch.
It's Sean King.
What we're seeing, Sean King. And what we're seeing right now is we're seeing that the media is seeking to divide us, seeking to bring us away from it, bring us away from all of the problems that we have as a nation to cover up everything else. I mean, what happened to the Epstein story? There was a ledger of all of these people who were on that. He's dead, but we're not pursuing justice. Where's the justice for the thousands of women that were raped as little girls? Where's the justice for that?
Where's the story on Hillary not getting her? She's going to have to go in front of the judges. I mean, in front of basically a trial on her emails. She got denied, whatever it was, a suspension. She was trying to get it thrown out essentially, and the judge said, no, you're going to have to testify. There's that. And then there's the Rod Rosenstein thing on the. Basically, the media is diverting the stories and however they want their agenda played out. And, there's been all kinds of stuff that's happened in Washington in the last 2 weeks, and no one's hearing anything about it because guess what? The media is focused on the riots, and they're willing to dish it out to people and basically say this group's doing that and this group's doing this. And if you don't get on one side or the other, you're either racist or you're, this or that. And it's the media classifies people. Yeah, they put us in classes. And, you got, white versus black, left versus right. And it's sickening. Like I said, I don't think that there's a conservative out there that I know that is either racist, homophobic, xenophobic, whatever phobic you want to name. They're not. I don't know. None of my friends would even fit that list. And first of all, they wouldn't be my friends if they did. And second,
here's the thing. Here's the thing on it is that I have seen personally that there is racism within the United States. And there was a gentleman who was saying that it was a female that was saying that because I married a Mexican woman, that I was going to give my children a lower IQ and that they were being all bad like that.
That's just uneducated.
It is.
It's
and
stupid.
When you look at, when you see what these people are doing and what they're capable of, they're literally the most Neanderthal, sad, flat earthers I've ever seen in my life. And when you go through and you see just exactly what this big boogeyman of racism is. Racism in America has lost its meaning.
Oh, completely.
When you see that, look it up for yourself. The Ku Klux Klan within America, United States, you have KKK has 55 members who are card-carrying members of the KKK.
Mm-hmm.
55. That's your big boogeyman. Yeah, you have other people who are racist, but there's racist across all boards. I mean, look at LeBron James. Based upon some of his statements saying he wouldn't have any friends who are white folk, you could say he is racist. That's his opinion. That's what he wants. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't damage me. As long as you have your laws which are protecting you, the laws, the Constitution of the United States, which say you have every right of every free man. If somebody has an opinion and doesn't want to be your friend, too bad. That's their loss. I have people that don't want to be my friend. But at the end of the day, we have a nation that is divided based upon completely fake things, using algorithms to completely destroy every voice out there that's trying to show that we are a united people.
Well,
we pray. Go on.
What I think that the media is trying to do. Okay, so here's my take on what the media is trying to do. With them being classifying us this or that or you know whatever it is that they want to do, they're taking away our individualism. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't want you to be an individual. They want you to be a robot. They want you to do things their way, only their way. And if you don't, then you don't fit their agenda and you're put into a class. And guess who else did that? Hitler did that. And you know, Hitler did that with the Jews. If you were Jewish, you got put into this class and you got put in a friggin' railroad car and you got carted off and you got burned up. I mean, that's the kind of shit that Hitler did. And our media, our national media, our voice of the nation is doing that to the American people. And if we don't find a way to stop that, then we're no better than, unfortunately, we're no better than the Jewish people were.
Well, and that's the thing. Our national media is doing the exact same thing to us, even down to the local level, because you look at these corporations that own the national media, that 90%, that routes all the way down to the local level. You have the local level, Record Searchlight, you have your NBC News. You notice that all of these smaller companies that are running your big news stations at your local level are the same companies which are owned by these big companies, saying word for word across the country what you're hearing, and it is a lie, and it is a damn lie. These people, I had the chance to turn around and sit there and pray with people who are from the other side of the aisle that they say that we hate. I had the chance to hug these people, shake their hand, to share pizza with them, to turn around and drink the same water that we were all there for. We were there to give medical care to anybody and everybody that needed it, should they need it. Fortunately, they didn't need it. But what we're seeing from the media right now is they're seeking to divide us, and they are the single most enemy of the United States right now, because they are controlled by outside parties who are turning around and trying to influence us with a single narrative that says that we are to be divided and not come together as one people under God in this United States to be able to say we are looking for the same exact thing. We're looking for a great place for our lives. We're looking for a great job for our lives. We're looking for a great ability to feed our family and pay our way in this life that we're in. We're all in the same struggle together. And they're trying to divide us and separate us, and they are the number one enemy in this country.
Well, you know, the one thing that, you know, what's the one thing that we're kind of guaranteed as Americans, or we used to be guaranteed? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Now we have life, no liberty, and nobody's happy. So, and who's caused that? Most of it's been the media. And, you know, that's the thing is, and not just, here's the thing that people don't, are not putting two and two together. It's not just the national media. It's not just the MSN. It's also social media. Okay. So you're looking at Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these other things. And I'll be honest with you, and you're going to laugh when I tell you this. So I got into, and I'm going to change it up a little bit here to kind of give a little bit of levity to this. But I just started doing, not doing it. Well, I've done a couple of videos, I'll be honest with you. But I just started kind of playing around with TikTok. And I'll have to say right now, there are a ton of conservatives on TikTok. And they're making good videos. And to be honest with you, in the last couple of weeks, I've seen a ton of black folks on there doing videos and stuff and basically saying, hey, you know what? I don't hate white people. And that's great. You know, I'm glad that they found a way to use their voice. And most of the people that are using TikTok have gotten sick of Facebook. They've gotten sick of Twitter. They've gotten sick of Instagram. So they're finding other outlets now to get out there and voice their opinions. And some of it's good. Some people are still getting banned on TikTok, which Yeah, that's a given. It is a controlled media source. So, but what I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for a non-bias social media to get onto. Now, there's been a few of them out there. They just didn't make it. Unfortunately,
Well, and I'll go the next step on that. It's not that they just didn't make it. For instance, there was Dissenter, and there was a couple of the others that ended up trying to make it.
Infinity SN. There's a few. It's expensive.
No, it's not even that. This is far more nefarious that we all need to be aware of, that we all need to look at, because these companies that tried to make it, they were gaining in platform. They were gaining in everything that they were doing. They were making waves because people are sick and tired of being told what to think and how to think. We had companies like PayPal that stepped out. We had all of the payment processors. We have the web hosters that said, we will not carry your site. We will not allow you to accept payment. And it shut them down to where they had to go basically dark web, which gives the worst of the worst a voice. Right. And so then you have places like all of these. You have places like Gab that have been turned around and turned into white supremacy havens and black supremacy havens because of the way they were stopped originally from being able to build a platform overall. It sickens me to the depths of my core to watch how corrupt and how sickeningly our media is being controlled by the top up all the way down. Most of these companies are tied into each other. PayPal tied into each other. All of these other payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, all of these companies are tied in with each other, and they agreed unilaterally to shut down the voices of these platforms to say you cannot build a platform to where people can create unity. Because here's the problem with it. You look through, history repeats itself time and time again. It doesn't matter if you tear down a statue. It doesn't matter if you tear down somebody's opinion. Those opinions will crop up, and you need to have literacy. You need to have history of saying this is how we dealt with this in the past based upon what we saw. If you destroy that, you are doomed to repeat the same mistakes that you've made in the past. And as you do that, and as these companies do this exact same thing, they are creating the very flaw by which the structure of society is going to break down, fall apart, and be corrupted, and we are all going to suffer and pay for it.
Well, the one thing that the media does really well is they love to show the worst in people. You know that as well as I do. That's exactly how they thrive. And, we as American people, we're going to have to figure out a way to come above that and show the best in people. Because if we show the best in people, then they've got no story. And I would love to do nothing more than shut the media down. I remember as a kid, I remember as a kid that the only time you ever seen CNN on cable news and stuff like that is when we were having big events, like we were having a war over in Kuwait, or we were having a war in Iraq. That was the only time that we ever tuned into CNN for anything. And that was to see the developments on what was going on over there. Now it's so in your face, and you've got hosts like Don Lemon, and you've got all these other idiots that have opinions when they need to be reporting straight news. And that's the problem, is our news has gone from being straight news to being opinionated. And the opinions that are being stated are both false, most of them. The opinion is not false, but the idea of what they're presenting is false. And they always paint a dark picture. They never paint anything happy. They never paint anything that's going to be, unicorns and rainbows. It's always darkness, destruction, and death. I mean, that's how they're making their money.
And I'll go the next step with proof. You have the instance of Jeff Bezos, owner of Amazon, who Wall Street Journal. He is in charge of it. He's bought it. He's gone through and done all the steps to be able to control that media source. There was a person who worked at the Wall Street Journal who did an article for another company who turned around and said that the working conditions at Amazon are basically slave labor. They don't have bathroom breaks. They don't have the ability to turn around and do what you would do in just about any other company. He was very clear, very honest on it, and I applaud him for doing that. And then you find out that because he did that article at another company, he was disciplined at the Wall Street Journal for doing that article at a different company and expressing his opinion at a different company. And we do not have free media within this nation. Our nation was set up so that you can turn around and have a free society who is not going to be interfered with the stories by the government or anybody else. And now what we're seeing is these big corporations are controlling the narrative to keep us in disunity and to keep us at each other's throats. And I know you would lay down our lives to save a black woman, an Asian person, a Mexican person, just the same as we would any other race.
That's the thing that kills me is we would do that. We would actually do that. And the media completely would say that we would be stomping on their face or, drowning them or whatever. That's the thing is 99% of the hatred and the division in this country is driven by the media. And it's because if we weren't divided, there wouldn't be no story there. Mm-hmm. Then they would have to actually report the crap that happens in DC.
100%. And what I would like, and get into the crux of the matter, after this is all done, after we have justice for George Floyd, after we have all of these protesters that have realized their vision and their dream, which is our vision and our dream. We want to see justice distributed. We want to see that take place. After that is done, I would like to see a nationwide boycott of our dishonest media, of our media that seeks to divide us, of our media that is controlled by and from entirely about 8 people who call the shots. It is disgusting and sickening.
Well, I think that would be a start. I think that you're going to have to start separating, or you're going to have to start splitting up Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You're going to have to start. There's a lot of moving wheels that you would have to be involved in. I think that unfortunately, most conservatives want to see less government, and for that to all happen, you're going to have more government. So it's kind of a double-edged sword on that kind of thing. So
in some ways, but I feel like if we had the same amount of veracity that we've seen with the George Floyd protests, if we had the same amount of people that came together, because they're not showing the videos. By and large, they're not showing the videos of the Black Lives Matter protesters that are going and offering the cops water. They're not showing the video of the cops that are going and hugging people and saying, I'm sorry this happened. They're not showing the videos of the people who are coming together across the way. They're showing the videos of the burning cars and the bad actors who are doing this shit. And it's on both sides. I don't trust Fox News. I don't trust CNN. I don't trust the liberal media. I don't trust the conservative media. It's all the same people. And we all need to realize that.
Well, there's the media doesn't have any problem showing cops kneeling down in front of the protesters. They don't have any problem showing all the bad crap that you could possibly show. And they're doing everything in their power to completely keep us divided. And it's gotten bad enough now. Here's the thing, and I want people to understand this. You've got states now. Most of the rioting, not all of it, but most of the rioting that happened that we see in the media reporting, they were making it sound like it was happening across the entire country. It wasn't. It was happening mainly in blue states that the governors and the mayors didn't put a stop to it. And they could have easily done it. They could have, called in the National Guard, which is a completely separate entity than the cops. They could have, there's so many things that they could have done to eliminate it. But you look at the red states across the country, and guess what? It was quiet. It was quiet. And I'm not saying that, red versus blue, but the media made it sound like the entire country was under siege, and it wasn't. Again, that's another version of false reporting. And you kept having these governors and mayors out there doing photo ops, and the news media was more than happy to put that crap on. And you know what? It's going to end up being a deal where we're going to have to start holding rallies, holding events, not at the state capitals, not at the city, the city level. We're going to have to start going in front of their places of work and unannounced. I don't think that we need to be, showing our hand. I've always said this. I think that putting up an event and getting thousands of people there, because all that's going to do is, bring police response. I think that it needs to be unannounced. I think it just needs to be popped up. And I think that people just need to start showing up at these places and calling them out. And here's the thing. Okay. So the news reporters, and I've always believed this, the news reporters are going out there like Jim Acosta. Okay. I can't stand that prick. I can't stand him. I think he's a dickhead. I'm trying to keep it as peaceful as I can on here, but I can't stand that dude. That guy, if I were to see him, I'd probably slap him across the face. Or shove the microphone down his throat, one of the two. We need to start interviewing them. We need to start putting them on the spot. They're always rushing to capture the story, and they're always rushing to shove a freaking microphone in our face. I think it's time that they're put on the spot. How many, that's the one thing that kills me. And this is the same thing with our politicians, as it is our news media. They're almost untouchable. We can't get to them. They're in cities that we're not in. Now, I know that there's people out there that can probably do it, but you're not going to get to Nancy Pelosi. You're not going to get to Chuck Schumer. You're not going to get to Donald Trump. They're untouchable. The news media is not. Some of them may be hard to find, but we know where they work, right? We know, where they're at. We need to get in their faces and interview them and say, hey, why did you do this? Why did you do this? Why did you do this?
Make them cover why they are so dishonest and why they are seeking to divide us. Because what we see time and time again is that they're doing just that, and that's not what the American people are about. We need to rally in front of these places. We need to turn around and tell them we are not going to stand for their false reporting that is going to seek to divide us. We are not going to sit by and sit idle as they tear down everything they've worked for. What Black Lives Matter has done, by and large, is not a bad thing. We all, the people that have experienced this, we've seen, just from this COVID stuff, right and left, how many bad cops there are out there and how many good cops there are out there. And what we see furthermore is when something like this happens in Minneapolis, LA Police Department just defunded their police $100,000.
No, more than that, dude.
Or 100 million.
150 million.
Yeah. And so here's my concept on this. We have a lot of good police officers who are out there. We also do have some bad apples. But the more we do this, the more we say all police are bad. And what is it? ACAB, all cops are bastards. We see a lot of that going on. The more we see that, the less incentivized you have for good officers to step up.
Mm-hmm.
Personal story. I was interested in joining the Highway Patrol. So was my wife. My wife was probably more interested in it than I was. We went through, we got the background checks done. We went through, we got the physical portion of it done. We were set, we were ready to go in. And then when this whole thing first started, back around 2008, where we started seeing a lot of this police brutality stuff, we can't cry wolf as a nation. We can't cry wolf when there's somebody pulling a gun out of their police band. But out of their waistband. And we can't do these things and expect racism to hold up. There are instances of abject racism within our country that we need to, as a nation, strike down, that we can't do if we're not unified. And what we're seeing through all of this is, when I saw all this taking place, and at that time we saw 4 cases back to back that were not police brutality. You had somebody that was told multiple times not to be reaching for their waistband, and they turned around and reached, they had a firearm, they got put down. And it's a sad case in our society. George Floyd, by all records, was a terrible person, but he didn't deserve to die in the way he died.
Well, it wasn't in his circumstance. The cop should not have been judge, jury, and executioner. No. Everybody in this country is afforded the justice system. And, if you do something or I do something, we got to go in front of a judge, and we got to, that's determined by our peers if we end up in front of a jury. And, and here's the thing that doesn't add up to me on that whole thing.
Well, one second before you get into that, for anybody wondering why I say he was a terrible person, he had 5 counts of doing multiple times of doing cocaine. He was in the stint for that, but that wasn't what got me. What actually got me on it was that he held at gunpoint a black woman who was pregnant, pointed the gun, robbed her house when he was there. He was a horrible human being, and he did not deserve to die in the way that he died. I'll make that very, very clear. We have a system of laws within our United States. We do not do that. You are not judge, jury, and executioner. You have your day in court. You have the chance to defend yourself. Point A, point B, over and settled with. Continue.
Anyway, so what I was going to say is the reason that they detain him is kind of suspect in my eyes, and I'll tell you why. So generally, if somebody turns in, say, a $20 bill or something that's fake, generally it's not the police department that takes care of it. Usually the Secret Service shows up. And the reason I know that's because I've dealt with it before. So in my business, if you take a $100 bill, say it's fake, you call the bank, you say you suspect it's fake, you call a bank, you run the serial number, and they'll tell you right away, yeah, it's fake or not. And usually, as soon as you hang up the phone, the bank is on the phone with Secret Service. And usually they send officers down there. And the reason I know this is because when I worked in Phoenix, Arizona, we had a young guy that brought a $100 bill in before we actually were supposed to even have business hours, but our front doors were unlocked for some reason. He came in and he wanted to exchange a $100 bill for 20s. Well, our lady at the front desk took the $100 bill, started walking back to the office to get the change to break it, and kind of started feeling it and said, I don't think it's real. So brought it back to our office. We made the phone call to the bank. They hung up, called Secret Service, and before we even made it back out there, they were at our front door. I mean, it was fast. They got the guy. Everything was fine. No big deal. But generally, local law enforcement doesn't deal with things like that. At least in my experience. So the fact that they were showing up there to deal with a fake $20 bill completely blows my mind. Usually, something in that minor, usually the place would just basically turn the $20 bill in. No, he didn't get any money. He didn't end up getting anything. He still had the $20 bill on him or whatever. The place that he tried to turn it in didn't accept it. So, why 4 cops showing up over a $20 bill completely blows my mind.
The story gets deeper too, based on what we've heard, is that George Floyd and this bad cop, I honestly don't even know his name. They worked together at a bar. They were both bouncers, and they both had
for like 7 years.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's not like they didn't come across each other.
I was willing to give George Floyd the benefit of the doubt. I didn't see him resist. I didn't see him do anything else. I did see some drugs that he dropped in the video. If you go on, you look up baggy George Floyd, you'll see it. He dropped something that looked like cocaine underneath from his left hand.
I think it was fentanyl.
He died from fentanyl, but I think he also had cocaine on him because it looked like cocaine. But the thing about it is that I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because as a bouncer, you might have somebody that'll slip you a bad $20 bill in order to get in. You can have that happen. And you're not immediately supposed to basically be judge, jury, and executioner over that. I mean, if it turns out to where somebody had slipped him a bad 20, that's that. If he was using illicit drugs during the time that he was stopped, that's that. I mean, I feel like we have a war on drugs, and we have a lot of things in this country that we all need to unite over. Why is it that there is a legal business right now of weed and of all of the pot and all the rest of that that's a legal business now, yet we still have people that are locked up for 20 years?
I agree.
Red and blue needs to unite over this and say it's not acceptable.
Well, and I mean, it's not that hard to look. And this is me being a prison guard. It's not hard to go into a computer and find out what someone was convicted of and why they're in prison. It's not hard. You could go through every prison and look up their conviction and why they were there. If they're in there for pot, let them go. I mean, just because there was a law 20 years ago doesn't mean that it would stand anymore.
Well, and I
Yeah,
mean, overall, looking at it, I'm not particularly for it, but at the same token, I'm not going to turn around and sit here and say you can't do it. But I mean, I've been a little bit pissed when I've seen a fucking dude smoking a doobie while he's going around the freeway. He's driving 65 miles an hour in the fast lane. I'm
well,
like,
to
pull
him, that's like light speed.
right. But at the same token, we shouldn't be doing that.
No,
And
I agree with that.
we've got to unite. That's the whole thing. We have to turn around and come together as a nation to be able to say our media is not representing us. Our media is representing the founders that are of these big corporations, these big entities, these shadow governments that are controlling the narrative of everything we see and hear. We all want to be free. I don't care if you're black, white, Mexican, Indian, dots not feathers, or feathers not dots, whichever way you want to do it. We all want to be free.
well,
And at the end of the day, the media is not representing that. The media is acting like we're all at each other's throats. I love you. I love each and every one of you. I don't care the color of your skin, your race, your creed, your gender, even your made up damn genders. I don't care.
yeah, I don't know. I think we have been divided for so long. I think that it's going to take a massive push to be able to go against the media, but it's happened in the past. I mean, people have come together. We need another I don't want to say an event, but we need another 9/11 to wake the people up and say, hey, you know what? We're all in this together. We have to figure out. I hate to say that. I hate to say we're all in this together because that's kind of became the whole COVID-19 thing. But we're all in this together. We're all in the same country. We're all bound by the same laws, or we're supposed to be, unless you're a politician in Washington, D.C. Then we have another whole set of laws. But
Well, and honestly, I feel like we're there. I feel like we're there right now. And I know it's been a different experience for you up where you're at. But from what I was seeing down here and what I was seeing, the unity, I mean, that video, I strongly implore anybody that's watching, go check that video out. It's on the stake, it's on my personal page. And we all got together and prayed together. And it was the most heartfelt thing for peace, for our city, for unity, for our officers to understand that they are peace officers who are there to protect us and who are there to promote peace for our country and our cities, and for our unity within our government, because we're not seeing that. We're not seeing unity within our government, and I don't know how much of that is actually bad entities and bad actors within our government who are sidetracking us, or how much of that is the media, and we won't know until we turn around and start holding these media companies and corporations responsible 100%.
Right, I agree. Well, David, I think we've been on for a while. Just kind of looking at the Facebook page and everything else. We've had some good comments. Let me go on here and see if I can find some here that I can comment on. Let's see. For some reason, it's not letting me scroll through them. So anyway, I think we've kind of covered about as much as we need to cover. I'm starting to get a little hoarse because it's been a while since I've done a video. I haven't talked this much in like 3 weeks. But I appreciate you coming on and thanks for it. And, we need to start passing around ideas as far as, how we can get the media to, stop being what we see as the media now and start being less for them and more for the American people. And, their whole thing is they're supposed to be informative. That's supposed to be the whole thing. Instead of them being a platform to divide the nation, they need to start being a platform for just news. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that was what exactly they were. Nowadays, it's just another arm of the Communist Party, in my opinion. I think it's another arm for socialism, communism, whatever you want to say. And we know that those platforms don't work. Look at Venezuela. Look at any of these other countries that have failed. There's a ton of them that have gone the socialistic and that kind of route. And and personally, in this country, we're supposed to be individuals. We're not supposed to be subjects. And that's what they're trying to make us out to be, as subjects. And I won't have it. I'd rather die on my feet with a gun in my hand than kneel before the king. And that's what they're trying to make us do right now.
Well, one thing that I'd like to do to end this off is I'd like to make a rally cry. I'd like to extend the olive branch. I'd like to go across party lines. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. I would like to see how many of you would be willing to march with me and march with people who are like-minded to me, to say we are fed up with ourselves and our groups being misrepresented, who are fed up with this story being caught out of hand to divide our nation, and who will march against the media. After this is all said and done, after George Floyd gets justice, after we see all this done, I would like to make the rally cry for the same people that came out for Black Lives Matter to come out against our media and say we are sick and tired of being misrepresented, and we will be there. We are your brothers. We are your sisters. We are the people who are there to stand by you 100% of the time. Will you come out and join us? Message Dustin, message me. I've got probably close to around, just in mentioning it today, probably close to around 3,000 people that are willing to go out with me. I've got 7 counties that are willing to go out with me. Will you come? Will you stand? Will you say we are tired of this bias in our media and we will not stand for it? Will you do that? That's my call.
I would call it something like, stop the media manipulation. Something like that. I mean, we have to make something catchy and something that people can get behind. Black Lives Matter says it all. I mean, their movement says it all. And we have to make a movement that includes and encompasses everybody in this nation to basically say fuck you to the media, if nothing else. So, all right, David, I'm going to get off here and go and drink a beer or something to get my throat lubricated again. So you be good. And, out there, if you're ever interviewed by anybody in the media, make sure you record it, because you need to have your own evidence of what you say. I've seen it too many times where your words get twisted. So, with that said, this is Sherman Tank and this is David, and we're going to get off of here. So you guys have a great evening, and be good to each other. We love you all.
Love y'all.